And let's talk about Miss Jennifer, who Miss Delola is having another Delulu moment. So she recently did an interview, which we talked a bit about yesterday, which was about Ben Affleck, and she was about Kiss of the Spider Woman. She's promoting the movie that comes out on the 10th. I believe that's next week. So yeah, she did CBS Monday Morning, where she sat down with Lee Cowan and basically said that her voice was shaped by a love of Broadway musicals, which she considers her natural style. So, as y'all know, Jennifer soared to superstardom, starting with the title role in 1997's Selena. But then again, remember, she was in A Living Color. She did a bunch of other stuff. But yeah, Miss Beady Beady Bomb Bomb was the launch of her career. Now, from her stint as a fly girl on A Living Color in the 90s to her beloved rom-coms on her TV series roles like Shades of Blue and a bunch of others, J-Lo has managed to snag a piece of black movie lovers' hearts with her acting roles. Her music, not so much. Now, despite what some would deem mediocre singing and allegations that R&B singer Ashanti was the real voice behind some of her hits, don't forget Natalie Ramos too. No one and Christina Milian. No one would deny Lopez and the box office go together real bad. Her movies have become classics and household favorites in black households, and many black folks want her to stick to just that movies. So, shout out to The Root because they went in on this. But during her interview, I should say, Lopez said that her singer voice is better suited for theater and Broadway and said because she grew up singing musicals and she loves musicals and and that's how she learned to sing because her mother was big on musicals and whenever musicals would come on like she and her would sit and watch the videos. I remember at one point didn't wasn't for kind of set up to be a lawyer or something or another, and then she kind of like teetered off into wanting to be an artist or something or another because she said one of her other sisters wanted to sing opera. First of all, we need to hear her voice. Like, do you sound like Jesse Norman? Do you sound like Sophia Crystal? I'm naming drag queens. I mean, do you have that kind of voice where you can do opera? But anyway, I have the clip, courtesy of TikTok. We gonna play the clip so y'all can hear her go into her Delulu era. And as people commenting on my TikToks, I had to close those, and then we'll come back and we'll talk. Please hold.
Have a voice that's more suited to theater as opposed to the stage.
I have said that, and it's true.
What does that mean?
When I grew up singing musicals because I loved musicals, and I remember going to my first Broadway show, and it was how I learned to sing, and so that's kind of how I trained my own voice. So then when I started singing pop music and stuff, it was like nobody knew that I could sing in that way. And then when I started singing these songs, and if I sang My Man Somewhere from Barbara Streisand or something, people were like, "Oh my God, you can sing like that?" And I was like, "Yeah, actually, I prefer singing in that way. That to me is more my natural voice."
What was the first Broadway?
The first Broadway show I ever saw was Song and Dance, and it was with Bernadette Peters. I think my aunt took me to it. She had tickets and she took me for my birthday or something. And she said, "I have never felt like this." And I just fell in love with it. I was just like, "Oh my God, I love this so much." But that was the first one I saw. And then I saw Dreamgirls. It was a big deal. And then when I was a dancer, I saw Chorus Line because they were expensive and we couldn't go to shows like that all the time.
Yeah.
And now I take my kids to see as many shows as I can.
Do you really?
Yeah.
So what do they think of music?
They love music. I have a musical theater kid right now. And so I'm living my best life. They like go away to camp for musical theater and they do all the shows and I get to see them and it's fantastic. And I try to expose them to all that stuff that my mom did for me because I know how much it impacted my life.
You think they'll go into the business?
I don't know. This generation is different. It's not as, I don't know, maybe because my kids are growing up different than I did.
Yeah.
So I grew up kind of with nothing and they're growing up, very kind of privileged in a way. And it's different. So I don't know that they have that same ambition and, drive and push that I have.
Or that far off goal that
that they're like, I'm just gonna live my life and be happy. I think they're more interested in being happy, which I'm really glad about. I always told them I want them to do good in school. And I remember sitting them both down, maybe they were about 10 or 11 years old. And I was like, "Do you understand what I want for you when I tell you to do this or this or that. I forgot what we were talking about. And yes, you care about grades, but you don't care about them as much as character. I said, yes, I want you to have good grades, but I want you to be good people.
Yeah.
That's what's important to me.
Okay, so we can stop it there because it was gonna pause. But yeah, so child, after she said what she said, the people over there at the neighborhood talk Instagram comments, y'all are shady as hell. So shady to the point that I'm petty enough that I want to read what some of the people were saying. So let's get into her. One person said, this type of delusion needs to be studied at a postgraduate level, one person said. A second person wrote, she can sing, she just don't sound good when she do it. Another social media user penned how they were insulted on behalf of the talented Broadway singers, while someone else wrote, even the interviewer looking at her like, "Oh, is you cool?" One person commented, now, Jennifer, your voice was trained for talking, babe, which brings up the next point. Black folks love J-Lo's movies. So, yeah. So she basically, they said that. And one person said, this why Mariah Carey don't like her. And another person said, she was born to sing solo. Solo, no one can hear. Y'all are messy. Now here's the thing. Somebody said, nah, your voice is better for singing in the shower. Another person said, girl, bye. And she had the nerve to tell me no on American Idol. Oh, let me find out you told somebody that's in the comments that tried out for American Idol and she turned you down. That was, you feeling a little bit of bitterness there. So it's like, oh, this my get back. Well, all right, Jade, you better get her. Okay, and another person said, even in, oh, okay, I read that one. They say if she could sing on Broadway and Trump could be our president with felonies, that means my options are endless. Never settle, guys. So we're just gonna stop it there because I feel like we gave her enough of a lashing. But yeah, no, Jennifer, let's be clear. I don't think you ever had any intention of being a singer or whatever the case was. You were a dancer. That got you through the door. Then you were acting and all that other stuff. Selena came along. It was a great opportunity. I think because you was feeling yourself with being up on and doing that whole scene with Selena in a purple outfit and selling out the stadium, I think in Texas and that sort of thing. And you like the roar of the crowd and all that other stuff that may have hyped you up to be like, you know what? I think I might want to jump in and sing it. Now, being a pop star, it don't require much. You don't have to have the best singing voice in the world. And that's fine. But also let's point out that one thing we could say about Miss Jennifer, and I'm not going to lash her too hard. Well, I think we lashed her enough. Um, I feel like she has improved. Stevie Macker is her vocal coach. Shout out to him because I did, and funny enough, I just watched an interview that he did earlier. I can't remember the name of the person he sat down with, but it's on YouTube. He did an interview where he was talking about like being a vocal coach and singing and all that other stuff, and he dropped some jewels in that whole interview. So I was thoroughly impressed with him, and he has definitely trained Jennifer to do what she's able to do with what she has. Now, as far as her getting on Broadway, because like I said, um, she's a pop act. You can get up there, you can sing your little songs and stuff over, a dance beat, whatever the case is. You can pretty much do all the things. They got enough bells and whistles where they can do the pitch correct, all the other stuff is fine. But if you're thinking you can do 8 shows a week on Broadway and sing down like a Bernadette Peters or a Audra McDonald or any of those girls, ma'am, the range ain't there. So, and it's no shade. I'm just saying, it's like, how many times have I told, I was gonna say how many times I told this girl, like she gonna listen to me. I mean, stick to the rivers and the lakes that you're used to. And I love the fact that you pretty much have like high standards for yourself and have to be like, if I don't believe in me, who else will? But we also have to be aware of our limitations. And I don't get theater from you because I heard your vocals on this Kiss of the That's I don't know if they released the official album yet, but the single that you released for the Kiss of the Spider Woman, I could definitely still hear, even in you doing taking more of the Broadway thing, I could still hear your vocal limitations in the way you interpreted those songs. So music is basically about bringing your personality out and telling a story with your voice. But I think a lot of times in people's heads, y'all think that being a singer requires thinking y'all level of idea of singing is they gotta sound like Whitney, they gotta sound like Barbara Streisand, they gotta sound like they gotta have like that high peak of vocal. And it's like, no, everybody has their own little thing. And if you able to interpret or incorporate your personality in the way you in the style you do your music, that's great. Same thing like with Billie Eilish. Billie Eilish has sort of like this Bing Crosby-esque jazzy type of vibe that she brings to her music. So it's like everybody has their own little personality. But you know, folks, we're not gonna sit up here and act obtuse because if you actually they were like, oh my god, I can't believe you sound like that because that's what she was saying in the video. Oh, they gagged when they heard like, oh, you could sing like that too. Now, sis, if you was this great singer like you making yourself out the sound, then why was you using Ashanti vocals on some of your songs? Why was you using Natalie Ramos's vocals on some of your songs, and or even like if you listen to a lot of her earlier stuff on the chorus, she would use other people's entire vocal, and that would be left on there. So if you had such this amazing voice, like you trying to make it try to sound, you would have been able to get up in there and layer down your vocals on them things instead of you pretending that that was your voice on a lot of those songs, and the girls having to make whole TikTok think pieces talking about how the industry did them dirty to prop you up, including Mariah Carey having to come out and say like all the shade that all the little shady things that her ex-husband Tommy Mottola was doing, using you as a Trojan horse to sabotage her career because she decided to leave his little controlling ass and wanted to go off and be Miss Independent Woman, part 1, 2, and 3. Shout out to Beyonce. So yeah. So look, so Black Twitter was basically like, in addition to all of that, they want Jennifer to stick to the Rivers and the Lakes, and the Rivers and the Lakes being the movies. The music, yeah, I guess people not really feeling the music thing because nobody's supporting her music when it comes out. She got to go overseas to make a profit. But in America, it's like, unless you're a hardcore J lover, nobody cares what you putting out musically. Because if that was the case, but This Is Me Now wouldn't have been a flop. So yeah, we had Selena in '97. Then she played Cameron Sisko opposite George Clooney in Out of Sight, which I love that movie in 1998. And I always said that I like when she did more of the kind of the leading actress that can hold her own type, very much that tough cop. Like she definitely gave that. Then she's been in a bunch of y'all know The Wedding Planner, where that was the first time, and I'm probably the only time where she had a #1 movie and a #1 album, and that was in 2001 with The Wedding Planner and the J Lo album at the same time. Then she had Made in Manhattan, where Tyler Posey played her son. I'm like, damn, time flies. And then she did Monster in Law with Jane Fonda. And so she was definitely the queen of the box office at one point. And you know, and out of the many movies of Jennifer Lopez, there's a lot of guilty pleasures that I have with her acting. Anaconda, her Anaconda do, and Enough. I love Enough. I hated that wig in the third act, but I love Enough. Enough is enough, which is actually a Barbara Streisand and Donna Summer song. But and then of course I liked her as Ramona Vega, no relation to Yolanda, in Hustlers, where we thought she was going to get an Oscar. But that's what she said, and also in the interview that she's learning not have high expectations. I mean, it'd be great to get an award, but And so, and then remember the controversy that happened when she did the I'm Real remix. Speaking of which, I'm Real, but that whole chorus wasn't even Jennifer Lopez, the original version. I'm not talking about the I'm Real remix with Ja Rule, where she said the N word, and y'all dragged her from Kingdom Come for saying that. So yeah, when I was talking about the whole thing of like regarding, so it's cute or whatever that you have these delusions of grandeur, because like I said, at the end of the day, if you don't believe in you, who else will? But let's not sit up in here and act like that. Okay, if you're this amazing singer, then why weren't you so forthcoming regarding who was really singing background on a lot of the music that you was putting out? So that's what I'm just saying. So if you're gonna say it, of course we got to come back and be like, nah, sis. Even the interviewer was kind of looking at her like, ma'am, mommy. That whole situation. So I say all this to say, what do you guys think of this story regarding Christopher out here talking about that her singing voice is more suited for theater? If that's the case, sis, then I feel like your next move need to be I need to try to take on the challenge of being on Broadway, not a Broadway movie. Broadway movies are different. Go on Broadway. I want to see you be able to hold your own 8 nights a week without all the bells and whistles and see how well you do. Broadway is a whole totally different beast. I've been to enough Broadway shows, luckily enough, with my upbringing. And it's funny because I came from humble, poor beginnings. Then my parents became middle class. And then we had the opportunity to go see a lot of Broadway plays. And there's been Broadway plays that I've been able to see. Funny enough, my job is doing 4 ticket giveaways to go see Hugh Jackman in his final night, which is this weekend at Radio City. I'm contemplating it, but I'm like, do I want to sit and look at well, I would definitely love to sit and look at Hugh Jackman, but I don't know if I want to sit and look at Hugh Jackman singing a bunch of torch songs and show tunes. Although I told you I was this close with him in the elevator. Took a lot out of me to want to jump on top of it and climb that man. That's a big man. But anyway, it's not about Hugh Jackman. This is about Jennifer. So I definitely want to hear from y'all. Let me know what your thoughts are on this story in the comments. And I'll see there's a lot of comments down below.